What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Bet Against Me. We actually have a camera on me today, which is good, unless you prefer not to see me, which is a totally valid objection.
I would have that objection.
You can check out the video of this podcast on our YouTube channel by searching Bet Against Me Podcast on YouTube. And if you're already watching on YouTube, you can, of course, click that little annotation on the top left of your screen to subscribe to us on iTunes. You can find us on iTunes by searching Bet Against Me Podcast on iTunes. And I guess while we're at it, you can follow us on Twitter at Bet Against Radio. We might be on the podcasting hub Stitcher soon. Still waiting to hear back on that. But you can keep your eyes open for it. All right, enough with the promotions. The Final Four edition of our podcast. We're pretty excited for the games this time. I've already actually got my bets on. And today I'm joined, as always, by Christian. And we'll have Brandon back with us today for the second time. So last time, Christian and I both broke even. We both went 4-4 in different ways for the Sweet 16 games. So I guess it's never a bad day when you don't lose money. Brandon went 5-3 last time, including one particularly accurate prediction.
I think this will be the best game of the weekend, at least for me, or the later part of the week, Thursday and Friday. Even over UCLA and Kentucky, I'm looking forward to this game the most.
That was about the Wisconsin game, and this is how the Wisconsin-Florida game ended.
Canyon Barry, the trigger man. Wisconsin sets up his defense. Gators down by 2. Get it in for Chiozza. 2 seconds. 1 second. Chiozza tosses it up. Oh! A miracle!
So I'd say Brandon was pretty right on that being the best game of the week. That was the best game of the tournament, was the Wisconsin-Florida game. I think I messaged Christian about 3 minutes to go in the game. Florida's up like 10, and I'm like, well, looks like I went 5-3, and you went 3-5. And here comes Wisconsin.
Yeah, I believe I said to you, you should just not say anything towards the end of the games if you haven't learned that.
I believe, to quote you, you said, "This is your fault."
I believe I did.
So we did all right. 4-4 is not terrible. Hopefully we'll do a little bit better this time with only 2 games and the 2 over-unders. So maybe we'll go 4-4 this time. At least maybe I'll go 4-4 this time. The Final Four, though. 64 teams, 68 teams, I guess, now, and it all boils down to this unlikely 4. First game, 6:09 on Saturday, CBS. South Carolina and Gonzaga in Phoenix. So, Christian, South Carolina might have had a lucky draw in the first 2 rounds playing in Greenville, South Carolina. But now they find themselves playing statistically the best team in the nation, 2,060 miles away from home. Surprisingly, this surprised me when I looked it up, Gonzaga's not significantly closer. It's almost 1,400 miles away from Spokane, Washington, is Phoenix. So even though it's the West Coast game, it's a surprisingly neutral floor. I think Gonzaga's answered a lot of questions for me in the last, 2 weeks. I'm a little bit of a believer now. They've been the best all season if you believe the AP and the advanced statistics. However, I kind of understand if you still have some doubts. There's some room for disbelief in Gonzaga still. They beat Northwestern. They were in their first NCAA tournament ever, so not exactly a powerhouse basketball program. They beat one of Bob Huggins' least talented teams, I think. Even though they played really, with a lot of heart and a lot of effort, I don't think that West Virginia team had that much talent. And then they followed it up by beating a Xavier team that was 9-9 in the Big East this year. So there's no doubt they've not had a very hard road to get here, or at least they've had a lot less hard of a road than South Carolina. South Carolina's knocked off some of the best teams in college basketball, and any team that can win 4 straight against Marquette, Duke, Baylor, and Florida is a great basketball team. Not good, Christian. Great. South Carolina's beat 4 great basketball programs to be in this Final Four, and definitely won the toughest bracket overall, in my opinion. Frank Martin's been excellent. Thornwell and Otis both have exceeded expectations, have been playing great. They play a really unrelenting defense, not that Gonzaga doesn't, but I think South Carolina forces teams to play within their game plan almost every time out, especially in the tournament this far. South Carolina's opened as a 6.5 point underdog. That's where they currently remain as of right now, 8:25 on Tuesday night. Gonzaga's favored by BPI 88 to 12% in this game. Gonzaga's 21-10-2 against the spread. South Carolina just 17-15-2. So my gut instinct in this game to pick South Carolina in the points, Christian. Tell me why my gut is wrong.
Because whoever I choose is, I mean, at this point, I'm wrong about Gonzaga and South Carolina, and it's just going to stay that way. It's going to stay a constant. Apparently, Gonzaga is good enough to make it to the Final Four, finally, as a team. And apparently, I'm just going to be consistently wrong about South Carolina being a good team.
Yeah, every time they do something good, you cannot continue to message me saying, I hate South Carolina.
I have no.
They're
I
awful.
think it's because my gut instinct tells me that I look at South Carolina and I'm just like, they were 3-6 going into the tournament, and I just can't back a team that's like that. But at the same time, they played 4 great games to make it here. So at the same time, it's more where, do I want to go against the grain of what they've shown with what Frank Martin's been able to do with this team, what Sindarius Thornwell has been able to accomplish in these 4 games, or do I want to back Gonzaga, who I've probably never really felt confident in this entire year? I haven't felt confident in Gonzaga in years, I'll just say. So with me, I think that Gonzaga is going to win the game, but I say that very loosely because South Carolina could just rattle off something. They played a great game against Florida. I think the Florida game was more surprising to me, but I think that Gonzaga's length is going to probably be the difference in this. I think Przemek, Karnowski, and Zach Collins are going to be the real difference. And if South Carolina is able to play well in the front court and Chris Silva is able to do well, then I think that they'll stand a shot. But I just nothing really tells me that South Carolina is gonna win this game. But then again, I've said that about them for three straight games.
Nothing said that in the first 4 games either. They've technically been the underdog in all 4 games. They've gotten points in all 4 games.
This is crazy. What's crazy is I look at this matchup, or all 4 of these matchups, even choosing the bracket between with South Carolina at the very beginning, and I've looked at South Carolina's matchups in detail. South Carolina versus Marquette. I was like, well, South Carolina's good at good defense, but Marquette can score. They're probably going to win that. Nope, wrong. There's no way they can beat Duke, right? Duke had a fabulous offense with some of the best freshmen in the country. Wrong about that. Okay, Baylor's a pretty good team. They've played great all year. Nah, they'll take care of them. And then Florida, a team that they didn't play well against this year, they showed that they weren't able to play well with them.
They lost by 20 in Gainesville.
Yeah, and they end up winning that. So I guess it's only fair for me to just go against South Carolina and keep their good luck going all the way to the championship.
It's that Frank Martin magic. Brandon, are you a believer in the Frank Martin magic?
Yeah, I like South Carolina a lot at plus 6.5. I've been riding them the last few games on the spread, and I think they'll cover again this game. I think this will be a last possession type game. I think Gonzaga will win, but I definitely think that South Carolina will cover the spread here. The over-under is at 138, and I kind of like the over there, but I'm not entirely sure about it, so I'll probably stay away. But I'm going to take South Carolina at plus 6.5. I think Frank Martin has really kind of proven his worth, and he kind of got run out of Kansas State. And as most Tennessee fans know, we hired the guy that fired him. So
John Curry.
It's kind of been a little bit of bitterness towards all of that the whole tournament. But I've been riding South Carolina on the spread, and they've been covering. So I'm going to keep that going, and I'm going to take South Carolina 6.5 here.
South Carolina 6.5. Speaking of the over/under, like you said, the over/under is 138 in this game, and these teams, South Carolina and Gonzaga. Correct me if I'm wrong, Christian. Are they not 1 and 2 in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency stats right now?
Yes, they are.
So, that seems like, considering, I know Gonzaga's got a great offense. South Carolina's buried in the mid hundreds, I believe, in the offensive rankings. But considering that both of these teams have probably the best two, or at least two of the best 5 defenses in college basketball. I think that 138 is actually surprisingly high for an over-under. I would have expected it to be maybe more around like 131 or lower. So I think that's an easy choice for me. I'm on the under in this game for sure.
I like the under as well. Don't get me wrong. On this, I think Gonzaga wins the game once again to Brandon's point. I think it's going to be a close game, but so that's where I take South Carolina on the points in this one. However, I'm going to go with Gonzaga winning the game, but I don't know. They're probably going to end up losing anyways. So hopefully South Carolina proves me wrong.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take South Carolina and the points, and I actually think South Carolina wins the game too. That's no slight to Gonzaga. I think they're real this year. I think they've proven that they're real. They made it. I don't think they have to win a championship every year to prove that they're not underrated. Or they weren't overrated this year. They won the championship. I mean, they made the Final Four. They were number 1 seed. They probably weren't overrated. Anybody can lose any game in the Final Four. It's kind of a toss up. But they've had the easy draw this far. They've got to play big number seeds the whole way. They've got to play an 11 seed. Obviously, they got to play the 16 seed. Now they get to play a 7 seed to get into the final or to get into the championship game. So if there's one thing that scares me, especially if I was a money line better on South Carolina, they've seemed to be taking advantage of the opportunities that the tournament has been giving them by beating unexpected lesser opponents that have upset people consistently.
One thing I want to say is that I think if South Carolina wins this game, I think they match up much better with either Oregon or North Carolina than they do Gonzaga.
I do too.
And so if you think that South Carolina has a good shot at beating Gonzaga, then I would throw some money down on South Carolina on the futures bet to win it all. They're plus 750, the highest odds now. And so I think if you think South Carolina can beat Gonzaga, there's some great value there for the futures bet to win it all.
That is true, but I am personally very scared of Oregon. So let's just get this all down on paper. I'm on the under. I'm on South Carolina plus the points. Christian?
I'm on the under and South Carolina on the points.
And Brandon?
I'm on South Carolina on the points, and I'll go over on the total.
Second game, 8:49 on Saturday, CBS, Oregon and North Carolina. North Carolina had an interesting couple minutes in their last game.
Fox has it. Give it. Let's see if they... Monk to tie it. Oh, an impossible shot with 5. Looks up. Driving in. May for the win. North Carolina.
So, did you see on Reddit that Luke May showed up for class at 8 a.m. the next day?
Standing ovation.
After 8:03 a.m. and he's in class.
Dedication.
Student athlete.
I think Brandon and I talked about this, and I said I would have been damned if I'd have been there.
I would not have been in any class the rest of the week.
It's like
I've probably still been hungover.
I've skipped 10 a.m. classes because I didn't want to go. Like
I've skipped afternoon classes like that.
No, for sure. It's like
did you ever figure out what type of class it was? What's his major? Does anybody know?
Probably no slight to athletes, but probably sports management.
I will look it up.
You'd be looking it up, and I'll be setting this game up.
You got it.
North Carolina survived a fantastic Kentucky team, and probably the second best game of the tournament, maybe the best game of the tournament. It seemed. I tell you what, I went back and watched after that game. I went back and watched the Villanova North Carolina championship game from last year. Shockingly similar. Except for there was a timeout between the two game winners, where there wasn't in this one. And North Carolina certainly seems like they are out to avenge that fate from last year, losing in that championship game. North Carolina is really balanced. They've got great they've got great guard play. They've got great post presence. Kennedy Meeks has been playing extremely well, even if I personally kind of believe that he gets every call. But regardless, I have nothing bad to say about him. Their offense is fantastic. They're averaging over 85 points a game. They're sixth in adjusted offense, according to Ken Baum. They've been playing pretty decently defensively as well. And they really had De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk contained, and they both looked visibly flustered until late in the second half, which is really quite an accomplishment, considering that they really shut down two probably lottery picks for 30 minutes. I believe at one point CBS showed a stat that it was 30 minutes in the game and they had a combined 13 points where they had like 51 in the game before, something like that. So North Carolina's defense is no slouch. Their adjusted defense ranks 18th right now, according to Ken Baum, and they allow just over 70 points a game. But Oregon is great too. Obviously, they made it to the Final Four. They're all great. But Oregon is a special team, I think. They dismantled a really, really good Kansas team that also has 2 or 3 lottery picks, and they played great defense to do it. The game was extremely lopsided, but Oregon has been that team all year, haven't they? When they play like they did against Kansas, when they get hot like that, they're the best team in the country, in my opinion. Hands down, they have been all year. They have that potential, but they struggle with consistency. They're also ranked inside the top 20 in Ken Palm's rankings, both offensively and defensively. This is the game of the tournament, in my opinion. This is a game that I would have wanted to see out of the right side of the bracket. If I was setting 2 teams up, this is the one I want to see. North Carolina opened favored by BPI 57 to 43%. The opening line has Oregon as a 5-point underdog. Oregon is 20-16-1 against the spread this year. North Carolina is 20-17 against the spread. Brandon, I think this is probably a 1-point game either way. But who do you think has the extra point when the clock hits 0?
Yeah, I think North Carolina pulls it out and wins. I'm a little biased because I picked them to win my bracket, but I think that they win this game. But
you were disqualified from this podcast.
No, I think Oregon covers the spread, but I think North Carolina wins. So it's moved between 5 and 5.5 this week on the spread, but I think Oregon covers regardless of whether it's 5 or 5.5 or even 4.5. I think it'll be a 2 or 3 point game with North Carolina winning. But I could definitely see Oregon pulling this one out. I just don't think they will. But I also like the under 152. Oregon's mostly gone under on all of their totals this year. I think the under's like 16-14 or 16-13, something like that. And really, I think this will be a kind of a slow-paced game in the second half. So I'm going to go to under and Oregon on the spread.
Christian, like Brandon was saying, these teams are 18th and 19th in defensive efficiency rankings, but they're both very high in the offensive efficiency rankings as well. So I think the over-under at 152, that's a pretty even over-under. I think that's it's kind of hard to predict. They're both so even on offense and defense. How do you see the over-under going, and did you ever figure out what Luke May's major was?
Business administration. So it was probably an easy class. Yes, probably an easy class because he's also a freshman. Probably one of those,
So he's not into his major quite yet.
Yeah, it's either way.
It was a business 101 class. I looked it up.
Yeah. Weren't you a business major as well, Christian?
I was.
What is business 101? What is covered in business 101?
I did not take a business 101 class. I mean, I don't think they even offered that type of class there. You just get into your business stuff. I mean, all your economics things, accounting stuff. I mean, that's usually just what you're going to get into originally, like right starting off. But I have no clue what a business 101 class would entail.
Well, in all fairness, at North Carolina, who knows what any class that an athlete entails? Because
I'm sure
apparently they have a history of giving like classes. I'm making air quotes, classes to athletes. Maybe it's one of those things. Didn't they just get in trouble with the NCAA about that?
They did. I think that was all during a Butch Davis era.
Yeah, maybe Roy Williams is getting in on that action too with Business 101.
Yeah, probably.
Anyways, 152 is the over/under. Oregon -5. Who you got? Or Oregon +5. Who you got?
I'm going to go against what I've been thinking all tournament, and that was before the tournament last year. had even started. I saw where North Carolina kind of turned a corner defensively. I think that was their problem. Offensively, they had the team probably to win last year, and they right around the ACC tournament time is when they started turning corner. And you could going into the tournament, North Carolina, you could see their defense had really turned that corner, and they were able to make that strong run to the championship. I thought they were the strongest team, regardless of losing in the championship. I think they were the strongest team last year over Villanova, and I think they given that game again, I think North Carolina wins. But regardless of that, going into this tournament, you could see them starting to turn that corner from the ACC tournament. Defensively, I don't think they necessarily have a better defensive team they did last year. A little bit worse, but offensively they're about the same. But you could see where they've started to turn the corner and really started to make stops in key crucial situations during the game. So I think now. It's hard for me to go against them, but I think Oregon actually wins the game. It's hard for me to even say that, knowing how much Chris Boucher meant to their team. But Jordan Bell has picked it up extremely well. I mean, what they did against Kansas is something that I couldn't fathom. Because
I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah, and Tyler Dorsey just lights out, and Dylan Brooks, I mean, just is who Dylan Brooks is. Dylan Brooks is a great player. So I think with all three of them playing the way they are, and Peyton Pritchard and Dylan Ennis to come off the bench, or Dylan Ennis to start, Peyton Pritchard to come off the bench, and Peyton Pritchard and Casey Benson. I think that they just really have the team that can match what North Carolina brings off the bench. It's the front court. It's another thing where South Carolina is probably going to have a tough time in their matchup with Gonzaga's front court. I think Oregon may have the same tough time with North Carolina's length.
Yeah, I think you're going to hear Charles Barkley get on the pregame show and talk about, I don't know how they're going to deal with North Carolina's big man.
Yeah,
how are they going to deal with North Carolina's big man?
As well as Jordan Bell played last matchup, his athleticism and Oregon's athleticism in total, it's hard for me to even say that they won't be able to handle them. I know Kennedy Meeks he's a man. He's a man's man.
Yeah, I was about to say, compared to Jordan Bell, Kennedy Meeks looks like a tree stump, like a big gigantic 100 rings around it, like a big tree.
And Isaiah Hicks, I mean, another thing, he's another big dude. And I feel like Oregon just showed me something that in their last game, these last two games really in total, with them being able to close out a close game versus Michigan and their great offense, and then close out what I think Kansas was probably playing the best of the tournament up until that point, and be able to just dismantle them. I think that they've gotten over this Chris Boucher injury, and I think that they're going to be able to continue and carry that momentum into this matchup.
Do you think they're kind of playing for him at this point, and maybe that gives them more motivation than him being on the floor?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally something that could be why they've been able to play so well. I mean, if you think back when Louisville had that injury to God, what was his name?
I know, Kevin.
During the Elite Eight.
Kevin.
Yeah, during the Elite Eight when he broke his leg.
Kevin leg snapper.
Yeah, Kevin bone piercing through the skin. That
Kevin half his leg is laying on the floor and he's not.
Yeah, dude. I just remember. God, I can't remember his name either. The Duke guard. God, I remember his face vividly as he hit the three, and then he walked back down the court. They zoomed in on his face, and he was just wincing because
Kevin Ware. Kevin Ware was his name.
So it's one of those things where I think
I'm not watching that YouTube video. No thanks, Google.
Yeah,
saw that once live, and that was enough.
It's one of those things where I think that they're going to be able to carry this momentum, and it's once again hard for me to go against North Carolina, especially they looked so great against Kentucky, a team that going into that, I think Kentucky probably had a little bit of an edge going into that matchup, and they were able to. Honestly, North Carolina was up that entire game until they got tied going down the stretch, and they were able to close out that game. So it's going to be a close game. I like Oregon in the game, but betting wise, I like Oregon's points plus 5.5. Or plus 5, whatever it's at right now. The over-under 152, I like the under on that.
I've already put in my bets, so I can't change them now. I like Oregon plus the points just because it was for the same reason I said last time. Anytime I think that you can get one of the best teams in the nation and some points, that you should do that.
I'm gonna go with on the futures if you can. I mean, this is my futures bets. Oregon beats Gonzaga. That's a plus 625 right now.
I would say that move your mic around, Christian. You're echoing just a little bit.
Excuse me.
I would. Okay. No, you're still echoing a little bit.
Hold on a second.
Check. Yeah, you're echoing bad.
It's not me, is it?
No, I don't think so.
But now.
Check. Just a little bit. Just mute your mic for a second. So, yeah, I think Oregon wins, and I also think, so obviously I'm going to take them plus the points. So I guess I'm betting on both the underdogs, but the defensive prowess of these teams, I feel like they're not elite defensive teams. So I'm actually going to take the over. They both have been playing exceptionally good offense lately. And the over is at 152. That's not a whole ton of points to have to score. That's not a 165 or a 166 that would scare me off of it. So I think I am going to take the over and Oregon plus the 5 points. So just for the paper, I'm on Oregon and with the points and the over. Christian said he is on Oregon and the under. And Brandon, you are?
Oregon and the under.
Oregon and the under. So 3 for Oregon in this matchup.
The reason I'm going the under is I think this game will be in the 70s, and I think it'll be North Carolina something like 76 to 73.
Yeah.
And so that's 149. So it's going to barely go under.
I think you're in the right ballpark because
the projections right now. Projection right now is 77-75 on Kim Palm. So that's right there at that 152 range.
I think you're in the right ballpark because North Carolina specifically, from a non-analytical standpoint, their last 3 or 4 games, especially in the tournament here, other than Butler, have been really close games.
Yeah, I think that they've got. Hold on 1 second. I think that they've had.
Well, they had
70. They've had 70. Besides that Butler game, that was a 92-80 game. The only thing that concerns me about the over/under on that is all 4 of. Well, actually, I'll just say all 3 because apart from the 16s, the first round game, the 16 seed, that doesn't really matter. But they've had all 3 of these games, Arkansas, Butler, and Kentucky, at 74, 73, and 73 possessions. So that kind of concerns me going into it. But they had 73 against Kentucky, and that was at 75, 73. Arkansas was at 74 possessions. That's 72-65. So North Carolina has that pace that will make you go over 70 possessions, which allows for high scoring. But at the same time, they did that against 2 teams like Arkansas and Kentucky, and it still was under that 152 threshold.
So it will be interesting to see how that plays out, but those are our picks for the Final Four. So hopefully I get all of them right and win a bunch of money. All right, now turning to something that we don't do a lot, but we're going to have to start doing more of, a little bit of NBA action. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night, probably tonight for you when you're listening tomorrow. Is that confusing? Sure. We've got Miami at the Knicks. Miami -4. What do you guys think about this one?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Heat -2.5 at the Knicks. Everybody's kind of hearing about South Carolina winning more games at Madison Square Garden the past few weeks than the Knicks have. The Knicks kind of tied them last night. The Knicks won at home last night, but I'm still taking the Heat -2.5. Heat are playing really well. They're fighting for some playoff positioning. The Knicks don't really have anything to play for right now except for losing to get higher draft picks. And so I'm going to take the Heat -2.5. I just think the Knicks are a pretty garbage team.
What about you, Christian?
I'm going to go with, you know what? I think they won last night in spite of everybody saying that, the South Carolina's won more games than New York and Madison Square Garden. Since it's at New York, what's to say that they don't get a second win in a row in Madison Square Garden? So I'm gonna go with New York just because I I want them to actually prove everybody wrong, or actually, want to do something different than what everybody's saying.
The
Since you
Warriors,
pointed that out, I'm going to double down on the Heat. I think they won. They won their one game, got people off their back, and now they're just going to go out there and lose the rest.
That probably won't be what happens.
Golden State will get in the bus and travel from Houston to San Antonio. San Antonio will be a 4.5-point favorite.
Yeah, this one's another good. This should be a very good game. San Antonio last night played the Cavs at home. They were 5-point favorites and covered pretty easily. They blew out the Cavs by 30 points or so. I wish we could have done this earlier today because the Warriors were +1 at Houston, and I love that spread pick today. But I'm going to take the Spurs tomorrow night -4.5 against the Warriors. I think the Spurs are one of the best teams in the NBA at home. They're 29 or 30-7 at home. The Warriors are a very good team, obviously, but I think San Antonio is maybe going to try to fight for that 1 seed, and this will be a huge game for them. And so I think 4.5 will be covered if you get into the late game situations where Warriors are fouling, trying to prolong the game. And so I think San Antonio covers here.
Christian, a little playoff preview. What do you think?
Yeah, I do like San Antonio in the game, but I think it's going to be real close. I think it's just going to be close down the stretch, and I could see Golden State even pulling it out. So I'm going to say Golden State on the +4.5. I believe that's what it is right now, the line +4.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Golden State and the +4.5. Only for it to be close. I like Golden State. San Antonio in the game, but for all the reasons that Golden State is probably the best team in the NBA, probably going to end up winning the finals. I'd like the Golden State at +4.5.
Worth noting that the Spurs are off tonight after blowing out the Cavs at home last night. One more game. The line is not out yet, but we predict it to be, Brandon predicts it to be right around a pick'em game. Indiana at the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the spread will be at, but I predict it'll be around 2 or 3 favoring the Grizzlies at home, and I love that. If it's less than 3 points, I'm going the Grizzlies here. Even 3 points, I'll probably go on the Grizzlies. They're 21-14 at home, a very good team at home, and I think they match up very well with the Pacers and what they do. Tony Allen, if he plays, then he can kind of limit Paul George to what he can put up offensively, and the Pacers are pretty garbage away from home. They're 11-25 away, and so I'm going to take the Grizzlies here. If it's close, on the spread, if it's more than 3.5 or 3.5, I'll be a bit more wary about it. But if it's 2.5 or 2, which I predict, I think the Grizzlies cover here.
Christian,
I like the Grizzlies. I do like them at home. If they are at -3, I probably would take the Pacers in that one, only because I like Miles Turner a lot. I like Jeff Teague. I think what they bring to the table, but at the same time, for all the reasons you say, the Pacers pretty bad away from home, and the Grizzlies being pretty good. I think that -3, anything above that, I would caution a little bit. But definitely the Grizzlies -3.
Worth noting that Marc Gasol is questionable in that game. I'm going to take Miami, Memphis, and San Antonio. Not that means anything, because I know nearly nothing about the NBA. All right, but short podcast this time. That's okay. We had 2 huge college basketball games to talk about, so short, sweet, and to the point, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Once again, we'd like to thank Brandon for joining us.
You millennials will really appreciate it.
If you have attention deficit disorder, this is the podcast in the series for you. Once again, thanks for Brandon for joining us.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And as always, for Christian, I'm Jaxon, and this has been Bet Against Me.